Hello, welcome to another edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I'm going to look at the Super Fiendish from today's edition of the Times. Super Fiendish Sudoku, of course. Standard Sudoku, but should be quite difficult. So let's have a look and see what we can see. As usual, I'll use the normal notation that we recommend. So we recommend in 3x3 boxes, if you can locate just two cells where a number can go. So for example, 3 can only appear in these two cells in this bottom 3x3 box. We should use little pencil marks to record that fact. Do the same with 1s here, and we'll be able to do it throughout all over the grid at the start, and that's basically what we should do. So we can see this 3 here allows us to place pencil marks in these two positions. That resolves the 3 that we recorded in the bottom right hand box. That's useful. We can now make more pencil marks down there. You can see this cell has to be a 7 because of this 7 here, and therefore this has to be a 7, and therefore more pencil marks in this box here. And now you can see also that we can place pencil mark 2s to complete this 3x3 box, and given this 2 in this position, pencil marks up there. And now this is nice because with this 2 now we can place pencil mark 2s down here, but look, there's a 2 up here which allows us to resolve both the 2 and the 3 in this bottom row, and place more pencil marks. We can actually also get a couple of 3s because of this 3 and this 3. Which allows us to place more pencil marks in, or our first pencil marks in the central 3x3 box. Okay, so we're making good progress so far. You can see these two cells have to be 4 and 5 in some order. They're the only things that are left in row 8 to fill, and we have a 5 here. So that's a 4 and that's a 5. Always put the pencil marks in when you have the opportunity to do so. So we've got a 6 and 8 into these two positions, and we have an 8 here. And that's nice because it allows us to complete this sort of double 5, 6 up here. And also look at what this 8 does. This is the power of this notation. This 8 doesn't just give us one number, it gives us 3 numbers, because this 8 forces an 8 into this position. And look what that's going to do. So we can place an 8 here. That means there's only one place left. A 3 can go in this box, and that forces the 2 into place as well. So a whole series of useful consequences from this 8. Now the only difficult thing you have now is remembering to make all of the pencil marks that you can now make from the deductions. You can see that the 4, 7 is resolved, only because of this 4. And now we have to pause now. This is what I recommend, and just make sure that we record everything that we've got usefully. This has to be 7, 4 in this direction, like that. We're looking at what's it, 1, 3, 9 down here, so this has to be a 3, and we can put pencil mark 1, 9s into the other positions like this. And now we have to remember also that we can scan across and see what we can do over here. I'll be looking at the middle row first, so 5, 7, 8 are the numbers to be placed, and you can see, look, there's a 7 here and a 7 here. So in fact, this is the only position that a 7 can go in this central row, which allows us also to place a 7 here by simple Sudoku rules. Now so far, this certainly hasn't felt like a super fiendish puzzle, I have to say. There's been nothing complicated about this at all. Now 4 and 9 are into these two positions, so let's place them. Now one thing I would immediately be noting here is the positions of these 9s in columns 7 and 8. You can see we have 9s in these two cells and 9s in these two cells. Now that means that whichever way round these 9s go, they will remove the possibility of there being any other 9s in rows 7 and 8. So there couldn't be a 9 here, for example, because if there was, this would have to be a 9 and this would have to be a 9. So that means that the 9 in this 3x3 box has to be in column 9. It has to be in one of these 3 cells. Now, unfortunately, if we look across, we can't see any other 9s yet over here to allow us to pencil mark in this deduction we've made. But that's certainly something I would immediately pick up on and want to sort of note somehow in my brain. So you can see 6 and 8 into these 2 positions. Okay, now the next thing I'm looking at is this central column here. And I was thinking about this 8, because if this 8 goes up and this 8 comes across, that's going to allow us to make pencil marked 8s into these 2 positions, which is obviously quite powerful, because we should move that there. So now we have, what is it going to be, 2, 6 and 9 to place in these open cells, which, let's see, can't quite see how to use that. But if we extend the 8 up a bit further, this 8 here up into this box here, and combine it with this 8, we can actually get a couple more pencil marks. Any pencil marks at this stage are going to be quite useful, because I suspect we're at the point where this puzzle becomes difficult, because there's not been anything difficult yet. Now I'm thinking, look at this 4 here, and this 4 here. That's removing a lot of this box from being 4. It can only be a 4 here or here. Oh, sorry, above that. Here or here. Which allows us to pencil mark 4s into these 2 cells. And the other obvious thing we can do is we can use the fact that we managed to get the 8s in here to place an 8 into this cell. That's we should have spotted that, or I should have spotted that more quickly, because that's going to give us a 5 in this position here. And that allows us to make some pencil mark 5s up here. And you can see that's not immediately going to be useful. But I'd immediately be returning to this box now, because with this 3 and 8 locked into these 2 cells, you can see we've got to place 2, 4 and 6. And that's going to allow us to make pencil mark 4s, but nothing else, unfortunately. The 2s and the 6s aren't quite revealing how it's going to resolve this box yet. And the next obvious place is this 5 here. We scan this 5 across and look at this 5. We can place a 5 here. So let's do that and see if that helps us at all. And it does. Okay, so there's a little bit of advanced logic. We can place the 5s here, like this, and we can do exactly the same trick we did with the 9s in these 2 cells with the 5s in column 2 and in column 8. You can see. Now, why is that useful? Well, it means there cannot be a 5 here. I do recommend you pause the video if you can't see why that is, but because, let's just imagine this was 5. If this is 5, this must be 5. And if this is 5, this must be 5. Either way, there is no way this can be a 5. So the only place a 5 can go in this 3x3 cell is here. So we need to make use of that. Write that in. So again, here I'm thinking column 4 is becoming quite full. We need a 1, 3 and an 8 here. Now this cell here can be a 1 or an 8, but I can't make notation because I'm not able to conclude the positions of the 1s in this 3x3 box. Although this one means this cell and this cell can't be a 1, there would still be 3 positions that are open for a 1, so I can't write a 1 into this cell. Now we have a 1, 8 possibility here, a 3, 8 here, and a 1, 3 here, but nothing more doing. Pencil mark 9's in there. Pencil mark 2's in here. Now we can pencil mark some 8's in here as well. Aha! 1, 2, 3. Okay, yes, here we go. There's a nice bit of logic here. So this is the only point in this puzzle that requires a bit of cleverness. You remember we looked at these 9's earlier, and we concluded that the 9's have to go over into one of these 3 cells. We still don't know which of these 3 cells, but look, there's one cell in particular in this puzzle now that is very much restricted, and it's this one, because we've concluded that 5 of the numbers that we haven't yet got in this 3 by 3 box are not in this cell. Okay, so the only things that we're left to, I think, resolve here are, well, this can be a 2, 4, 6 or 9, but you can see that the 2 and the 4 are in these cells and the 9's over here. So this has to be a 6. Let's write that in like that. Now is that going to help? Yes, because it means that we can resolve this 6 and this 5 over here, and the whole puzzle will now fall. So quite interesting. Look, I'll show you why, because look, we can put in 6's here, which forces this to be a 9. So remove the 9 pencil mark from this position. And now look, this 5 here is going to force this to be a 5, and that's going to chain all over this position too. The 9 now has to be here, and we're left with, well, this has to be a 1 and this has to be an 8 in this order. So it's simply a case now of just filling in the puzzle. You've done all the hard work if you've got to this point. So what a fascinating final step, I suppose. You know, we used the bit of logic that we'd found much earlier in order to just crack that last piece and make the rest of it reasonably straightforward. So, oops, I think that's the other way. Is that right? Okay, yeah, I think that is right actually. That's a 2, that's a 4, that's a 4, and that's a 6. So thanks for watching. I hope it's interesting. We'll see you again next time on Cracking the Cryptic.